thousands of scientists and doctors and public health experts you really believe are conspiring for the sake of helping pharmaceutical industries profit?
A very small number of criminal industrial conspirators decided to subordinate the entirety of the human population for the purpose of their sinister plans to enrich themselves while impoverishing and killing the rest of humanity. And I'm done being polite. We've long passed polite. When the words acceptable death rate become part of an industrial norm, we have lost the plot of humanity. And that's not my words. Those were the words of the World Health Organization and of Pfizer and of Moderna when they were given the authorization to begin the process of killing human beings in the interest of advancing their goals.
He has decided to use two untested technologies, mRNA vaccines and RT-PCR, to build a theoretical world into which all data has to fit.
It just looks like a headlong rush into a giant novel vaccine experiment with no thought to what happens if this is harmful. Yeah, no thought. Yeah. No stopping condition. How can that be?
Just the headlines from this paper. So they did active surveillance on 36,500 people. And 52% of those had an adverse reaction. Now, that's not too surprising because a lot of these were quite minor. But some had a level of seriousness. But out of the 36,000, 4,134 were considered medically serious. Now, if you do your quick sum there, that works out at 1 in 8.85. So this is data from the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency that is actually showing that the COVID vaccines caused medical harm.
But I have to say that I don't see a big solution other than some sort of mandatory vaccination. I know federal officials don't like to use that term.
Once people feel empowered and protected legally, you are going to have schools, universities, and colleges are going to say, you want to come to this college, buddy? You're going to get vaccinated. Lady, you're going to get vaccinated.
Yeah.
Big corporations like Amazon and Facebook and all of those others are going to say, you want to work for us, you get vaccinated. And it's been proven that when you make it difficult for people in their lives, they lose their ideological bullshit and they get vaccinated.
2021 and saw an alarming increase in certain things. For example, they saw a 270% increase in myocardial infarction in 2021, a 300% increase in incidence of Bell's palsy and of certain neurologic complaints, a 470% increase in pulmonary embolisms, blood clots to the lungs, and many, many other huge increases that they found alarming. Now, no one is saying with any certainty, Jason, what is causing this, but we certainly would be remiss as scientists if we didn't look at that and say, there is something going on. What happened in 2021 that was so different from the previous 5-year average that would cause this massive increase in certain medical conditions?
Years earlier, inside of a Pentagon-backed pandemic program that was built for speed. Like, we got to get this thing rolled out here. It all appeared to the world as if this thing came out of nowhere, but it didn't. And that's the explosive question being raised by newly published material from Sasha Latypova, who centered on leaked internal AstraZeneca audio that she says points back to a Pentagon-planned, DARPA-linked pandemic program dating back to the year 2017. In other words, major players inside the government, Big Pharma, were already treating it as a national security operation years before most Americans or people living around the world even understood what was happening.
Until an infectious disease crisis is very real, present, and at the emergency threshold that is often largely ignored.
To sustain the funding base beyond the crisis, he said, we need to increase the public understanding for the need for medical countermeasures such as a pan-influenza or pan-coronavirus vaccine. A key driver is the media, and the economics will follow the hype. We need to use that hype to our advantage to get to the real issues. Investors will respond if they see profit at the end of the process. Sounds like public health? Sounds like the best of humanity? No, ladies and gentlemen, this was premeditated domestic terrorism stated at the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in 2015, published in front of them. This is an act of biological and chemical warfare perpetrated on the human race, and it was admitted to in writing that this was a financial heist and a financial fraud. Investors will follow if they see profit at the end of the process. Let me conclude by making 5 very brief recommendations. The last slide. Nature was hijacked. This whole story started in 1965 when we decided to hijack a natural model and decide to start manipulating it. Science was hijacked when the only questions that could be asked were questions authorized under the patent protection of the CDC, the FDA, the NIH, and their equivalent organizations around the world. We didn't have independent science. We had hijacked science. And unfortunately, there was no moral oversight in violation of all of the codes that we stand for. There was no independent, financially disinterested, independent review board ever impaneled around coronavirus. Not once. Not once. Not since 1965. We do not have a single independent IRB ever impaneled around coronavirus. So morality was suspended for medical countermeasures.
In the last 5 years, I've never treated as many blood clots in my entire multiple decades of clinical practice as a cardiologist. The blood clots occur after the infection with the virus and the vaccine because the spike protein causes blood clots. It's without any controversy in medicine, the spike protein causes blood clots. So it is reckless and foolhardy to continue to vaccinate people and load the body with spike protein and cause more blood clots.
Come after 18 months, we haven't had any research. Isn't that fishy to you?
It doesn't.
It does. It is
doesn't.
fishy. It is super fishy.
Not that it hasn't been done. It hasn't been published.
It hasn't probably been done because the government doesn't want to show that the darn vaccine is full of shit.
So then when they were talking about lockdowns, which is a prison term, not a medical term, and in medicine you quarantine sick people, not well people. And then we were locking down well people and stopping children in their education, and one of the things you have to do in any infectious kind of disease or any disease is you look and see which age group are the vulnerable ones. Who is it? What is the sort of profile of the patient who's going to do badly with this? And then you protect them. And you work out how to do that. And it was the elderly who had comorbidities. It wasn't even the elderly who were fit and well, and that was so the whole thing, the science that they were claiming they were following just didn't make sense,
Because this immune system is much more intelligent than our politicians and our scientists who say it's a new virus and therefore we don't recognize it. This is so foolish that it hurts, all right?
This was never about public health. This was about economic gain, and it was about manipulating a population. That's what it was always about. We now know, without any question, from the perpetrators themselves, this is not a Tom Cowan or Andrew Kaufman or anybody else. This is not a conspiratorial theory thing. This is actually their numbers. We know that the likelihood of coronavirus actually causing a symptom related to any of COVID-19 is 0.004 or 0.4%. Now,
all these deaths above average, excess deaths. Different organisations have used different ways to calculate this.
And we've finally found one that makes it look like loads of people didn't suddenly die in 2020, 2021 and 2022 and 2023. And we've found a way of minimising that and making it seem not that bad.
Each with merit and particular uses.
But we've found one with merits and particular uses that are in alignment with our agenda.
For example, for planning health interventions and identifying emerging threats.
The biggest emerging threat is you waking up and becoming non-compliant.
In the spirit of continuous improvement, we've been working with independent experts.
How independent are these experts? Where's their funding coming from? And why are they so willing to go along with your agenda? Here's some independent experts I'd like to see involved. Jay Bhattacharya. Did you give him a call? No, I didn't think so.
And those across government and the devolved nations to develop a common UK-wide approach.
While you're watching this, you have to expel from your mind your knowledge that Moderna have employees from the FDA, that Moderna take employees from the UK government, that Pfizer spend an enormous amount of money settling lawsuits, that Pfizer spend a lot of money lobbying. As long as you expel all of that information, then you can cast from your mind the obvious fact that there's been significant excess deaths, and the way of solving that problem has been to change maths.
Using our new approach, today's release estimates 11,000 excess deaths in 2023.
Oh, that's good, because that's lower. Yes, in other news, this number here, that straight line, that doesn't mean anything anymore. And that one there, they used to call 8, that we call a snowman, that one we just call squirrel. Nothing means anything anymore.
While this is lower than our previous estimate, our new method accounts for the growth and ageing of the population.
It's not growing and ageing as much as it was because people are dying. You can't conceal that.
These are key factors in understanding how many deaths we'd expect to see and whether the number of deaths is below or above this estimate.
Like, just ask yourself this quite macro question. Why have they decided to do this now and put it out in the media? It's because obviously there's huge concern about excess deaths. What we're involved in now is a new phase of the pandemic. It's to put out surveys that minimise and mitigate the obvious adverse events. And now mathematics itself is being revised in order to minimise excess deaths. So the two key problems that have emerged from the pandemic period or the post-pandemic period are people died in extraordinary and exceptional numbers. You better control that figure. People got sick and ill as a result of the vaccines. This information can't be concealed anymore, but it can be managed because there's a point, even for us, even for people as willing to be compliant and as slumbering and sleepy as us, there's a point where we can't take it anymore. We're obviously reaching that threshold because pieces of propaganda like this are being released.
Looking more closely at the last months of 2023, there were actually negative excess deaths.
Oh, that's good. So everyone's fine then. Also, you're not poor and your food prices have gone down and everything's all right. And the Ukraine war is going very well as well.
Meaning fewer deaths than average being registered. Further back across the pandemic, the trends and peaks in excess deaths are the same using the new method as they were under the old.
That's literal Orwell. We have always been at war with Oceania. War is good. Peace is bad. 4 legs bad, 2 legs good. They're just changing information because it's becoming unmanageable. This is the key problem that independent media presents. Now we all have access immediately to alternative information and we can decide for ourselves. So they have to make arguments for why we shouldn't be allowed to decide for ourselves, because you look at something like excess deaths, you look at something like this piece of propaganda and you realise what's going on and you realise that you were right all along and you realise that the next step is to stop complying.
It's important to note that our estimates of excess deaths are just that, estimates.
That's all. It's just estimate. It's just the funeral that you watched on YouTube. It's just a person just dropping dead on a sports field. It's just young people getting heart disease at unprecedented levels. It's just wars all over the place that you're funding. It's just lies and propaganda. That's all it is. Estimate.
But it comes at a good time, this where we're all quarantined, because we know how to live like that, right? We got our fucking magic phones and computers and everything. We don't need no fucking people. It was the last step between us and happiness anyway, we're people.
We need to be prepared for the next pandemic.
When the next pandemic comes knocking, and it will,
well, if it knocks, just don't answer the door.
We must be ready to answer decisively.
We do need more money.
Oh, God, more?
But we don't just need more money for vaccines for children eventually. We need more money to plan for the second pandemic. There's going to be another pandemic.
Another pandemic? You've only just stopped playing with the last one.
That's why we need the money.
We will be much better off.
Yeah, you will be.
The next pandemic.
I know, it's in the checks.
When it occurs.
Okay, so they all seem pretty confident there's going to be another pandemic, but